to talk tonight, and I'm anxious because of the parallels in our struggle, which we must grapple with tonight as we go to the next stage of the struggle. Dr. King's last book is where do we go from here? We must start from here before we go to the where. In the 1600s, South Africans were being traded across the ocean to Brazil, going upward toward North America. We were being traded from the West Africa across to the Carolinas and Virginia and Louisiana. So we went through this slave trade parallel. Then after 1,200 years of that, next year will be 400 years of African Americans landed in America on the first slave ship, 1619. Next year will be our 400th year. The next stage from slavery was the period of apartheid. 1896 became the legal apartheid law in America. That became the law in 1948 in South Africa, parallel. Then we came into the apartheid of the segregation season, and we had a global commitment to end apartheid or segregation in America. So our generation was jailed and did our demonstrating. At some point in time, as we ceased to become strangers, we helped each other in these parallel systems. At the turn of the century, after 246 years of legal slavery, and there were global movements, abolitionists. Some South Africans came to America, some studying theology at Yale. They heard the Book of Washington and Du Bois. They came south. The model of Tuskegee Institute came home and they formed Fort Hare. Those connections go back a half century. As we look at the four stages of our struggle, and there's so much like those here as we got to connect it. 246 years of legal slavery. It was not just European invasion, it was slave trade. Some of our people were involved in the trading, as well as some others were being traded, which means that sin is deeper than skin, and values matter, and character matters. No one has the right to sell anybody based upon their kinship. And so, 246 years of slavery. When the Declaration of Independence occurred in 1776, we had been in slavery for 157 years. When the Constitution was written 9 years later, the big debate was how would they handle us, who had been the foundation of that society. 3/5 human being is what determined we would be. And they created this formula, 3/5. And when the war was over, states control labor, education, and health, and politics. Sure, the connection when Gore beat Bush in 2000. When Bush was ahead by 537 votes, the state stopped the count. 27,000 African Americans uncounted. That's how he won, because of African Americans uncounted the vote in 2000. Last campaign, Hillary Clinton won by 3 million votes. On the notion of electoral college, which was a slave formula, she lost based on the slave formula of electoral college. There's nothing sound about a one-person, one-vote democracy with a 1 with 3 million vote plurality loses the campaign. It shows the lineage and the connection. 246 years of legal slavery. Cotton was king around the world. France depended upon it, and Britain. The South was about to break away and start its own country. It broke away and the shot was fired. They were about to win the war. And Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. First time the full executive and in the military freed that many African people to join the Union Army to defeat the South and to end slavery in 1863 by executive order. 1865, the 13th Amendment was passed, but that was less stringent than was the Emancipation Proclamation. It said all were free except prisoners, which laid the groundwork for prison labor for another 100 years. Slavery was not as violent for us as segregation was, apartheid. In slavery, they wanted slave men to make love or sex with other black women to make other little slaves. Couldn't legally marry. You make babies and they would be sold. They were strong enough. They would work in the field or be sold. In a week, they would die. These illicit arrangement of families. There were no cases of rape during 246 years. You cannot rape your commodity. You can't rape your property. Very few killings, except if one were caught leaving, trying to run away from the plantation, and the dogs caught you. You could be killed to make an example to the others. The only way a white person goes to jail was to be caught teaching a black how to read or write. Strong minds break strong chains.